This free step-by-step video comes to you directly from Haynes, creators of the world's best repair manuals. Fix your car or truck the right way with our accurate and reliable information at your side. You can complete more than 200 jobs on this vehicle when you purchase the complete online manual at Haynes.com.
Water pump replacement. Open the door and pull the hood release lever located on the driver's side kick panel. Slide the hood safety latch to the left, then raise the hood upwards. Disconnecting the negative battery cable. Loosen the negative cable clamp nut, then disconnect the cable from the negative terminal of the battery and secure it out of the way to prevent accidental reconnection. Cooling system draining. With the engine completely cool, remove the expansion tank cap. Move a large container under the radiator drain to catch the coolant. Attach a hose to the drain fitting spout, if available, to direct the coolant into the container. Open the drain fitting with a screwdriver. Allow time for the coolant to drain completely. While the coolant is draining, check the condition of the radiator hoses, heater hoses, and clamps. Replace any damaged clamps or hoses. Once the system has drained completely, close the valve and remove the hose. Unclip the coolant hose from the air intake ducting, then disconnect the intake air temperature sensor electrical connector. Loosen the top hose clamps at the air filter housing and the right-hand turbo intake duct. Loosen the Y duct lower hose clamp, connecting it to the left-hand turbo intake duct. Disconnect the air inlet Y duct from the mating tubes and remove the duct. Loosen the hose clamp at the turbo intake tube. Detach the turbo inlet tube from the grommet, then disconnect it from the right-hand turbo and remove the tube. Disconnect the breather hose and electrical connector, then detach the wiring harness clip from the throttle body intake tube. Loosen the hose clamp, then disconnect the intake tube from the throttle body. Pry out the retaining clip with a screwdriver, then disconnect the lower end of the intake tube from the intercooler. Remove the intake tube from the engine compartment. With the drive belt installed, break the water pump pulley bolts loose. Using a socket and breaker bar, rotate the tensioner to relieve the tension on the belt, then slip the belt off of an accessible pulley. Once the belt is loose, allow the tensioner to slowly come to rest at its stopping point. Remove the belt from the remaining auxiliary components. Remove the water pump pulley bolts and pulley. Cover the drive belts with kitchen plastic wrap. If coolant gets on the belts, it can damage them. Loosen and remove the thermostat housing cover bolts. Take caution as coolant will start to leak out. Position aside the thermostat housing cover, then remove the thermostat and O-ring. Slide back the hose clamp, then disconnect the radiator hose from the water pump coolant pipe. In a crisscross pattern, remove the water pump mounting bolts. Take note of the installed positions of the various size and length bolts. Remove the water pump from the engine, pulling the pump forward to disconnect the coolant inlet pipe grommet on the backside of the water pump. Be prepared for coolant loss as the pump seal is broken. Remove the O-ring gasket from the engine, then clean the O-ring groove surface of any debris. Remove the rubber grommet from the backside of the water pump or coolant pipe. Thoroughly clean the mating surfaces of the water pump with a rag saturated in brake system cleaner. This includes the main pump mating surface, rear coolant passage, and thermostat mating surface. Lubricate the inside and outside of the new grommet with a film of coolant, then install it into the rear passage of the water pump. Make sure the pump mounting bolts are clean. Install a new water pump O-ring gasket into the groove on the engine, then lubricate it with a light film of coolant. Install the water pump onto the engine, pushing the pump rear coolant passage firmly onto the coolant pipe, then thread in the mounting bolts. Using 4 torquing stages, tighten the water pump mounting bolts to the specified torque settings, using the correct torque sequence. Here's the torque sequence diagram in which the bolts should be tightened. Connect the radiator hose to the water pump and secure it with the hose clamp. Using a rag saturated in brake cleaner, clean out the inside of the thermostat housing from all remaining debris. Also clean the cover mating surface. Install the thermostat spring end first. Make sure the air relief valve or jiggle pin is in the 12 o'clock position. Install a new O-ring into the housing directly in front of the thermostat. Pre-lubricate it first with a film of coolant. Install the housing cover and thread in the bolts. Tighten the thermostat cover mounting bolts to the specified torque setting. Remove the protective plastic. Install the water pump pulley and pulley bolts, tightening the bolts only hand tight at this stage. Route the new belt loosely over the various pulleys. Rotate the tensioner to allow the belt to be installed. Slowly release the belt tensioner when the belt is fitted onto all the pulleys. This is how the belt should be routed on these 2.7-liter V6 twin-turbo models. Make sure the belt fits properly into all the pulley grooves. It must be completely engaged. Tighten the water pump pulley bolts to the specified torque setting. Install the throttle body intake tube into the engine. Connect the lower end of the tube to the intercooler, securing it with the clip. Connect the upper end of the tube to the throttle body and tighten the hose clamp securely. Connect the electrical connector and secure the wiring harness clip. Connect the breather hose to the tube, secure the locking clip on the fitting, and join the 2 breather hoses with a coupling clip. Install the right-hand turbo intake tube, connecting it onto the turbo, then pushing the stud on the tube into the mounting grommet. Also attach the coolant hose into the clip on top. Tighten the intake tube to turbo hose clamp securely. Install and connect the Y duct to the necessary tubes. Tighten the Y duct upper hose clamps securely. Tighten the Y duct lower hose clamp securely, Then connect the intake air temperature sensor electrical connector, reconnecting the negative battery cable. Connect the cable to the negative terminal of the battery, then tighten the cable clamp nut securely. Cooling system refilling. Close and tighten the radiator drain fitting. Slowly add the correct type of new coolant to the coolant expansion tank until the level is at the max mark. Install the expansion tank cap. Start and run the engine in a well-ventilated area for about a minute, then increase the engine to 3,500 RPM for 30 seconds. Turn the engine off and let it cool for 1 minute. With the engine still sufficiently cold, slowly open the expansion tank cap and top up the expansion tank with coolant until the level is slightly above the min mark. Install the expansion tank cap. Start and run the engine again until it reaches normal operating temperature. The thermostat will open and the upper radiator hose will become hot. Rev the engine up to 3,500 RPM for 30 seconds. Then bring the engine to idle for 30 seconds. Turn the engine off and let it cool completely. Remove the cap and add more coolant mixture to bring the level slightly above the min mark with the engine cool. Squeeze the upper radiator hose to expel air, then add more coolant mixture if necessary. Install the expansion tank cap. Start the engine, allow it to reach normal operating temperature, and check for leaks. Also, set the heater and blower controls to the maximum setting and check to see that the heater output from the air duct is warm. This is a good indication that all air has been purged from the cooling system.